Greetings. How are you doing? I'm going to tell you how I'm doing today because in case you sense a lack of energy with me today, I have been sick, but it was important for me to get an episode out this week. It's Wednesday, which is the normally it comes out at midnight on Wednesday mornings, so it's going to be late, but I wanted to get one out this week regardless of how I have been feeling and the fact that I have not worked for the last 2 days and till right now, as a matter of fact. But here I am, and I am hopefully going to be giving you some good, worthwhile content. My name again is Lisa Edwards. I am the CEO, Chief Cook and Bottle Washer of The Exclusive Career. And I am also the host of the Exclusive Career podcast and the Exclusive Career Coach podcast, which we're listening to right now. So I alternate back and forth on Wednesdays with the two podcasts. This is the old podcast, if you will, that I have reinstituted. It focused on more job search related things going forward. There's still old content on there about the plethora of issues around career management, LinkedIn, all of the things. And my other podcast is more focused on career development and executive leadership, those kinds of things. This last episode, which was 27 that I put out last week, was on what recruiters are really listening for in that first conversation. I had two wonderful guests, Neil Marshall and Kurt Mosley, from an executive recruiting firm to talk about what they're listening for, what they want to hear, what they don't want to hear, and how to cultivate those relationships. So, we're going to talk about the hidden job market today. And as I've said before, I am bringing old episodes of this podcast into 2025 and as we go forward into whatever year it is to talk about both what has changed about that topic, what is new, update the information, and also my 7 years or however many years of experience that have come along since the original podcast. So this is based on episode 4 when I talked about the hidden job market. And I want to start with a definition of the hidden job market because I think it's something that most of us have heard of. The term, we bandy it about, but I don't know that everyone really understands what it is. And there's also a lot of disagreement, if you will, about how many jobs are in the hidden job market. So I did look up some statistics on that, and those are the statistics, the numbers that I'm going to give you. So what is the hidden job market? It refers to openings, job openings that are not publicly advertised through traditional channels like job boards, company career pages, or public job listings. Instead, these positions are filled through alternative methods, and I'm going to give you several of those that are the primary drivers. The message that I want you to hear is that no one's trying to hide jobs from you. It really could be more accurately described as the unadvertised job market. But they are, in fact, hidden if you're not looking in the right places or aren't job searching in the right way. The first one I want to talk about is employee referrals. Many companies will have either a formal or an informal system in place to recommend candidates from their personal networks, their professional networks. The idea being that if this is someone that you highly recommend because you've worked with them maybe at another company before, whatever the case may be, and can speak very highly of them, they are a known quantity as opposed to some random unknown applicant that applies off of a job board. And many companies have a formal program where they give referral bonuses to people who send someone that gets hired. The next one I want to talk about is networking. This is so much of what I work with my clients on is how to build these relationships with professionals, both in your desired industries, at target companies, and also just people, because we tend to think that our friend who is in a very different occupation than us couldn't help us with our job search, when in fact they have probably a fairly large network of people in a variety of careers in a variety of industries. And this can lead to informal announcement of opportunities. Hey, I want you to know this is happening. Or you can get direct introductions to hiring managers. And that's what it's all about. And it's so important to build these relationships and then maintain them and ideally build them when you aren't job searching so that it's there for you when you need it. The next one is internal promotions and hires. And this is a company that is filling a vacancy by promoting within. You like to be in a company that has a hire and a promote from within policy that can make it harder to get into the company. And sometimes then what is happening is the company may post a job internal that is actually going to be filled by an internal candidate, or either they've definitely planned that, or they have a strong candidate that they think will end up winning the job. And then actually what they're going to hire for is that lower level position that has now been vacated. The next one is recruiters and staffing agencies. And this is companies who choose to work with specialized recruiters. I mentioned that I talked to two executive recruiters and how that works on the previous episode of my other podcast. This can be either executive recruiters who have an exclusive relationship with the company. They have been contracted to fill a particular role, or third-party recruiters where many recruiters may have been given the information about the job opening and they're out there in their own networks trying to fill that position. And that can be in addition to posting public, it can be in lieu of posting public. The next one would be direct outreach. And this is you as a proactive job seeker reaching out to a company or a specific hiring manager to express interest, inquire about potential opportunities, especially when no public job posting exists. And this is identifying your target employers. We're going to talk more about that in the future, and cultivating those relationships, because then you have no competition. You are not being compared against a bunch of other candidates who may look better on paper than you. You're not being compared against a laundry list of qualifications because they haven't been established yet. Now, why do companies do this? I think that's an important thing to understand. In some cases, it can save on recruitment costs. So, for smaller companies in particular, that could be a big concern. For larger companies, they're going to get high volumes of applications. I've heard numbers upwards of 4,000 applicants for one job. And you can imagine that even with the applicant tracking system, there is time, there are resources involved in filtering and sifting through all of that to get to that critical mass that you're actually going to interview. And then I mentioned it earlier, also when you can hire candidates from trusted sources such as high performing internal candidates, people within your or high performing employees, or people within your network, they are known entities, and that's always going to be preferable than an unknown. Now, I promised that I would give you some statistics. Again, these are widely debated out there, but the most recent and commonly cited range that I could find was 70 to 80% of all available jobs are in the hidden market. I've given numbers ranging from 70 to 85% for years, so I really have been right on target, or at least I am now. And this means, obviously, that a pretty large majority of all new positions are being filled without ever being advertised to the public. And I think that we're going to see, this is my assumption, not based on anything I saw, but I think we're going to see more of this. And the reason is the agents, the AI agents that are out there applying for jobs on people's behalf without their knowledge or participation. There's one company out there, I cringe every time I see it, where they're advertising they're going to apply for hundreds of jobs a week for you. Well, you can imagine what that is doing to employers when you've got multiple people using agents to apply on their behalf, and they don't even know that they've applied for this job. They don't even know that they're in that pile. Companies are looking for ways to minimize the load on them. And so I think that hidden job market, that unadvertised job market, is actually going to go up. I also want to talk about why some jobs aren't advertised. And we talked about kind of reduction of costs and all of that, but let's kind of get nitty gritty here. One thing that can happen is an employer needs to confidentially replace an underperformer. So this is often going to happen at a fairly higher level where they don't want there to be a gap between terminating the old employer or the old employee and hiring the new one. So they're conducting a confidential search because they don't want to, tip things off. Another one is the company at, as particularly an employer at a public company, fears that the news of hiring a critical role might hurt stock prices. So if we're talking about a higher level, a president, maybe someone in the C-suite, possibly a VP level, if they're a public company, they're afraid of what that could do to their stock prices. They want to do that confidentially. Also, putting it out there publicly, especially at those higher levels, can tip off plans for some kind of new project, new direction that the company is taking that, again, they don't want to reveal to the public yet. Also, the employer wants to get referrals before or instead of publicizing the vacancy. So think of it as, let me see what I can get via my unadvertised, my network, my employee referral system, whatever choice I'm making, executive recruiting firms, third party recruiters. Let me see what I can do first and see if I can be successful that way. And maybe I'll publicize it on LinkedIn down the road, but I'd rather not if I don't have to. Next, a company is going to work through a third party executive or executive recruiter. And in this situation, the executive recruiter is going to be doing the advertising, particularly with executive recruiting firms. They're hired to do all of it, soup to nuts, even to include like bench strength, determining salary and compensation, all of that. And the company, there's no reason for them to really be involved in it until the actual hiring decision is made. They want to offload that. Next, the employer, particularly with smaller companies, maybe a company who's looking for some local help, they're going to use their social media presence, other free means. I'm actually seeing this more and more, and whether this is because of the job market or what's going on with AI, I'm not sure, but I'm seeing more creative and clever methods where companies are using social media, signs on the side of the road. And these are not just entry level positions that I'm seeing these creative methods for. The next one is employer is very small and doesn't have the time or the financial resources to publicize the vacancy. So again, what's free? Social media. What's free? A sign on the side of the road. There's a little bit of expense there, but you know what I mean. And then finally, sometimes an employer simply fails to publicize a vacancy, whether that's a large company where it gets lost in the mix or a smaller company, they just don't have the staffing. So there's all kinds of reasons that this might happen. Here is Here's a brief overview of some of the ways that you can get access to these jobs. And I'm going to give you some more specific strategies in ongoing episodes. I've talked about them in previous episodes, and I'll bring those into the present. And as I said before, keep in mind that no one is intentionally keeping you away from these jobs. No one's trying to prevent you from applying. It's simply the nature of the beast. And you have the opportunity to have just as much access to these jobs as anyone if you work your network. The key is being proactive and strategic, building relationships, positioning yourself for opportunities, especially those that might not even exist yet. And again, preferably building those relationships when you aren't actively job searching so that that network and those relationships are there for you in the future. So I've got four. Number one, and I'm going to go over these very briefly because again, I want to go into them in more depth. They all deserve their own episode and will. Number one, I've alluded to it about 40 times already, mastering professional networking, knowing how to build mutually beneficial relationships that are what I like to say an equal exchange of energy. You are giving as much value as you are getting. If you get a reputation as this person only reaches out to me when they're looking for a job, they never have anything to offer me, they never reach out to me when they're not looking for a job, you will get a black mark in terms of how, people won't pick up the phone, so to speak. They won't answer your emails if they know that that is how you operate. So you want to master that. That's a big part of what I work with my clients on is how to be an effective networker with an equal exchange of energy. Number two, you want to leverage LinkedIn to its fullest potential, knowing how, not the job part, that's the passive job search, but the active part of LinkedIn. How do I move around in that community? How do I leverage LinkedIn as a critical part of this networking that I want to do? Number three, identifying target employers. I used to say 12 to 20, I'm now, or 10 to 12, I'm now up to 20. 20 target employers that you are approaching because they align with what's important to you. They value what you value. They are where you need them to be physically, size wise, product wise, philosophy wise, whatever it is. That has to start with you knowing what is important to you. And that's, again, something that I work with my clients on. And then number four, developing relationships with recruiters. I am not an advocate when you are actively job searching of trying to find recruiters who are looking for someone like you at the exact moment that you're looking for them. Rather, I want you to develop relationships over time, make that an equal exchange of energy, give value. Again, this is something I work with my clients on. And then when you need them, when you are looking, or conversely, when they are looking for someone like you have those conversations, but it's based on a relationship that has been built. All right, a final word. I want you to create a system for yourself in which your networking efforts constitute a low level but consistent, can't emphasize that word enough, a consistent effort on your part. In other words, this shouldn't be something that has to take up huge chunks of your week, but it should take up some time, if not every week, certainly every month. Ideally, you want to build your network when the sun is shining for you, job wise, so that when the weather changes, you have access to that network. I've said it in about four different ways. Hopefully, it's clicking for you. If you don't start building your network until you need it, think about that. You're starting from zero. Or if you didn't keep your network going and consistent since the last time you needed it, you're starting over again from square one. And it's going to be a much steeper climb to get the results that you need from that network. So much better to think about this. And I don't know why this analogy has always resonated for me. Think about it as preventative maintenance on your vehicle rather than repairs. So rather than being, broken down on the side of the road because you didn't change the oil, get that, I don't know, that knock taken care of, or make sure your belts were whatever belts, not falling apart, whatever. You're doing that consistent maintenance when the car needs it, either because, like my car tells me it's time to do this or that, or the dealer will reach out to me and tell me. You're taking care of those things along the way. It's not a terrible expense of either time or money, and it keeps you from breaking down on the side of the road and being, stranded. I hope that has made sense to you. And the final thing I want to say about that is that when you are consistently keeping your network going when you aren't needing it, you are helping others and you're providing value to other people. You are putting coins in their trust jar, if you will, so that when you need to make a withdrawal and ask somebody to introduce you to someone or help you in some way with your job search, that trust jar has a balance in it. All right. Hope this has helped you. Hope it's given you some food for thought. I'll be back on this podcast in 2 weeks. And in the meantime, check out the other podcast, The Exclusive Career. See you next time. Take care.